these meetings. These meetings are everything. It's the reason our members pay our high dues and show up every Tuesday. If it's not worth it, they're going to quit. It's the meeting that sells our guests when they walk through those doors. The meeting will bring them into our fold or flush them instantly. Our meetings are everything. Since 1957, as Vay said, this club has been putting on professional, high-energy meetings. And I can tell you, in those 59 years, we've done everything wrong so that we can learn how to do everything right. And part of the makeup of this club, which has been so challenging, is that we're diverse individuals who have strong opinions about everything. And if we're allowed to run crazy, all hell breaks loose. Knowing how to do things is very important. When I joined the club, we had nothing. Nothing in writing. There was no new member manuals. There were no mentors. There was no front desk. There was nothing. You showed up and you observed. I sat in that seat petrified for over a year, watching, observing. It seems every time I stood up and gave an evaluation or did something, they would stand up in front of the whole group or pull me aside and say, Tim, no, we don't do it that way. This is how we do it. But why? Because Tom Carlin was one of the best. He could answer all my whys. Because it works. We've been doing it, and we're going to keep doing it until we find a better way. I've noticed in the last, it's probably been a decade, but I've been in denial, the fact that we bring in new members. Some of these members are great members, and they try to do the dance, but they don't get it. And I realized it's my fault. I consider myself an elder in the club. It's Dwayne's fault. It's those of us who've been here a while, Brendan, for not imparting upon our newer members how we operate and why we operate like that. So a couple months ago, I thought, heck, I'm just going to write down all these traditions, as we call them. We do it this way, it's a tradition. And when I wrote them down, they were like 6 pages typewritten. Wow, that's a lot of stuff. So then I thought, there's traditions, and I called them standards or codes of conduct or whatever we want to refer to them. I realized some of these we do just because we choose to. Some of the things we do because we have to, or the club won't function. And so traditions, I broke it down into something much, you haven't seen this yet, we'll be mailing it out. Traditions, what are traditions? In my mind, I thought traditions are things we prefer to do. We choose to meet weekly. We choose to meet Tuesday mornings. We have a breakfast in Mission Valley, all for good reasons. To have linen served, professional setup. That's why I put the banner back here, because this whole room becomes professional men, not just start here. We have 5 speakers, 5 evaluators, full table topics. Something only a handful of clubs in the world do. When I would go visit clubs when I was a younger member, I'd say, oh yeah, in an hour and a half. We choose to do this in an hour and a half. We do 5 speakers, 5 evaluators. They go, no, you don't. No, you can't do it. Come to our club and you'll see how. Evaluators. It's not a chief, it's not a general, it's a chief evaluator. Icebreaker. We want a past president, someone sees it. The president usually sitting over here in between these 2 functionaries. President opening closing meeting, philosophy. It goes on and on and on. These are traditions. But then there's items that we must adhere to. A dress code. There was a time not terribly long ago when one member showed up in sandals and t-shirt and shorts. And guess what? Other members started to do the same thing.
Jeff Settle! Okay.
And we had members looking sloppy. Once we voted on a new member with guests in the room. No, Guests always must leave this room when we conduct business. Paying dues, when you're expected to pay your dues on time. Guests are expected to pay their dues before we induct them. These are things you cannot fluctuate on. This is how the club works. Fulfilling your dues or your assignments on the schedule. It's chaos for the Toastmaster when no one shows up. So there are certain levels of conduct. And that's what's, by the way, you haven't seen behind the scenes. We've been doing this for months. Multiple versions of this have been coming around. And I can assure you, this won't be the final one. The conduct ones will be ones the members agree. There's no flexibility. And guess what? You're going to be called accountable when you're disrupting this club and not performing some of the key duties to be an active, supportive member. And by the way, everything that has been put down in writing, there's nothing new here. We're finally communicating this so everybody will be responsible and everybody will understand. Traditions, standards, code of conduct, whatever you want to call them, they're a natural part of a club that is evolving. We are great in getting better.